Hello and welcome to Deakin's Virtual Open Day. I'm Dr. Prue Francis, the course director of the Bachelor of Marine Science degree here at Deakin. I'm also going to be joined today with Dr. Trish Corbett, the deputy course director for this course, as well as two of our students that have undertaking the marine degree here at Deakin. We're absolutely thrilled to have you with us, and we're going to dive now into our marine course here at Deakin. But while we do this information session, we're also going to be hosting a live Q&A directly after this information session, where we can answer live any questions you may have regarding this degree. You can start writing your questions now in the panel on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will respond to these when we are joined with you live during the Q&A session. As we gather today for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually connected, let us take a moment to reflect on the meaning of place. And in doing so, recognise the traditional owner lands on which we do our business today. Deakin would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which our university campuses are based. The Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, on whose country our Geelong campuses are located. The Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, on whose country our Berwick campus is located, and the Pitwurrung people of the Maar Nation, on whose country our Warrnambool campus is located. I myself am located on Wadawurrung country, and on behalf of us all, I pay our respects to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander traditional custodians, elders and ancestors of all the lands from which you may be joining our gathering today. I express our gratitude for their care of country, which continues to sustain us as it has done for millennia. Education has long and rich heritage on this continent, which we aim to honour and reflect in the ways we teach and learn. Today's session, this is a little bit of an overview of what we're going to be covering. We're going to be looking at why study marine in the context of Australia, and the challenges that Australia faces in the marine space, and why marine science is incredibly important to help solve those challenges. Then I'll dive into the nitty-gritty of what the Bachelor of Marine Science actually is in terms of the entry requirements, the course structure, and then we'll finish off with information from our students, from their perspective, and also how Deakin is supporting you during your undergraduate degree, getting your job ready. And so we'll talk about those towards the end of the information session as well. If you're joining us today as an international student, thank you and welcome. We do have international study experts available all throughout today's open day via the web chat by clicking on the yellow speech bubble icon on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Alternatively, you can also watch the three information sessions that you can see here to learn more about joining the Deakin community. So why study marine? Well, 70% of the Earth's surface is covered by oceans. So there is no wonder that is one of the world's greatest resources. And here in Australia, we're surrounded by oceans. So we are a marine nation. The Australian coastline extends about 34,000 kilometres, and 50% of Australians live within 7 kilometres of the ocean. So in some way, we're all connected to our ocean, whether it's through our coastal homes, our work, our play, energy, food safety, or security. And whatever that connection might be, this amazing estate provides a social, environmental, and economic wealth to us all. Australia's marine industry includes ecosystem services, tourism, fisheries and aquaculture, offshore oil and gas, shipbuilding and ports, and together this industry has an estimated worth of $73 billion. And this is predicted to go up to $100 billion by 2025. And globally, it's even more, with the US estimate of $3 to $5 trillion. So the economic potential of the world's oceans is significant. Countries and businesses are increasingly thinking about how to tap into the ocean resources for more economic growth and investment. However, unchecked economic activity can pose significant pressure on our oceans. And here in Australia, we have identified 7 challenges that are facing our oceans. And if these challenges that are currently limiting our potential to increase the yet to be discovered possibilities of our ocean state. And these challenges that you can see here on the screen were recognised or posed by the National Marine Science Committee in 2015. And they include maintaining maritime sovereignty, safety and security, achieving energy security, ensuring that our food security is still there, understanding and adapting to climate variability and change, conserving our biodiversity and our ecosystem health, and creating a sustainable urban coastal development, as well as developing an equitable and balanced resource allocation. So how do we resolve these challenges and yet still rely on our oceans to achieve what is known as a blue economy? A blue economy is where our oceans bring economic and social benefits that are efficient, equitable, and sustainable to all. And the committee who initially identified these 7 challenges have also identified ways or solutions and key steps in achieving this blue economy and helping to resolve these challenges. And so there's no surprise here that these solutions all involve marine science. That is, we need to improve our understanding and our knowledge of our oceans, and we can do this through learning more about the science of our oceans. We also need to develop new innovative ways to overcome these challenges. So how do we do this? Well, we need more marine experts in the field. The marine sector needs you. We need great people who can establish essential knowledge of ocean systems and resources, which can then provide evidence base for industry and government to plan, invest, and mitigate that risk. We also need experts that can develop new marine technologies and innovation that will translate marine science discovery into industry development, job growth, environmental sustainability, and economic prosperity for Australia and the world, and hence moving towards that blue economy. And it's a great time to be part of this industry. We're in a time of digital revolution where we're seeing our industry share large data sets on a global scale. We are increasingly interconnected and working collaboratively, not only between scientists, but across a broad set of policy and interested stakeholders. So the sector is more interesting than ever, and with new technology and innovation being developed at such a rapid rate, the future of the marine sector is exciting, and your future in marine could take you anywhere. And here at Deakin, we have a fantastic course to help carve your marine career pathway. The Bachelor of Marine Science is a course that has a broad focus of multidisciplinary science that directly applies to the marine environment. And what do I mean by that? That is, for example, you'll learn fundamental knowledge and skills in the broad science fields such as biology, chemistry, physics, geography, mathematics, with an ocean layer to those. And so your subjects, rather than being called that, will be have a marine flavour to them, such as marine biology, oceanography, fishery science, aquaculture, and marine futures, are just to name a few. Our graduates are equipped with a broad marine scientific knowledge and research skill set that allows for that innovative science applications, contributing to achieving that equitable and sustainable blue economy, as well as developing skills and resources to be able to achieve or help manage the marine coastal and catchment environments. Our course has also been designed specifically to link with the key graduate employability recommendations that came out in the 2015 National Marine Science Plan. Our course is also ideally located along Australia's coastline. This coastline is interconnected temperate reef system known as the Great Southern Reef. And so both the campuses where our marine science degree is offered, can tap into this amazing temperate reef system. And this Great Southern Reef, if you haven't heard this term before, is actually considered a biodiversity hotspot for marine life. And some species that are found along the Great Southern Reef are actually not found anywhere else in Australia, if not the world. So it's a very unique, ideal location to study marine science. And also at our campuses, we have dedicated teaching staff across all 3 campuses that are marine experts in their field, not only here in Australia, but also around the world. Our research that is being conducted in the marine space is internationally recognised and also highly collaborative. We have great teaching facilities and resources that are innovative, and we have a very strong focus that our degree is immersive and hands-on learning. So we'll get you out into the marine environment. So rocky shores, seagrasses, estuaries, mangroves are just some examples of where you'll be out immersed into that marine environment, developing the skills that employers want to take that marine sector to the next step. And then back in the laboratory and our teaching facilities on campuses, you'll also develop the research and the skills that are required from that laboratory setting as well. The course has, since we have a lot of our scientists that have strong links to industry because of their collaborative work that they are doing, it also means that that translates into our undergraduate degree too. So there are strong links to assessments, industry where your assessments that you undertake are authentic to a real world challenge, an issue or a topic. And in your third year, you have opportunities to undertake at least an 80-hour work integrated learning placement with an organisation of your choice. And this really helps build your knowledge about the career workforce, and as well as sort of tapping into some ideas as to where you might want to head career-wise after you graduate. There's also opportunities to build your volunteer experiences with a strong focus on career education right from the word go when you come into your degree in first year. And our students will talk a little bit more about their volunteer experiences later in this information session. Anyone out there that might have an interest in our ever-growing aquaculture industry here in Australia and across the world, our campuses are also ideally closely located and work collaboratively with some of our aquaculture farms such as abalone, mussel, barramundi and seaweed farms as just some examples. Also, our Warm Ponds campus at Geelong is also in the process of building a state-of-the-art industry-linked research and development facility specific to aquaculture that will provide world-class training opportunities for our students. So that's a little bit of a snapshot of what the degree entails, but I'm going to play this video here that can showcase you some of our students undertaking some of their field experiences and practical components at Deakin University. Okay, hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight to our facilities that are located across our campuses. Okay, I'm now going to move into the nitty-gritty of the course itself and talk about what's involved to obtain your Bachelor of Marine Science degree. So we have a 24 credit point course. What I mean by that is that you need to obtain 24 credits in order to graduate. And to get those credits, you need to undergo and complete successfully 24 units, and a unit is considered a subject here at Deakin University. So you need to do 24 subjects or units, that some of which are decided for you and some that you will choose your own pathway. If you're studying with us full time, it'll take you 3 years to complete those 24 credits. And if it's part-time, obviously that will look a little bit different. We have 2 entry options. You can either come and join us in trimester 1, which is round about the March time, or alternatively, if your personal situation prevents you from doing that, you can come and join us in trimester 2 later in the year. The Bachelor of Marine Science has 2 majors that are on offer. You need to at least do one of those, or you can opt to do both. And I'll chat to you soon about what some pathways could look like. We've also got some minor packages in there too, so I'll also talk about those very shortly. Okay, let's have a look at what you can do. So bear in mind that you need to get 24 credit points. And so let's have a look at what some of those, how to obtain those 24 credit points. So for every student that undertakes the Bachelor of Marine Science, you will have to undergo 12 core units. What I mean by core is they are prescribed. So we basically say that you need to have at least these 12 units so that you can understand the marine science broadly, and then to choose a major sequence. And so both of our major sequences, whichever one you choose, has an additional 6 units. So that takes you up to 18 credit points that you will have to do no matter what, but whether you can sort of swap and choose as to which major that might be, or do both majors. So one pathway from there is that you can either then opt to do a minor sequence, as you can see here on the screen, and a minor package is 4 units, and I'll show you what those minors, there's 2 options of the minors that we're offering. And then to make up the 24 credit points to get your to graduate, there's another 2 units that you can then choose as your own choice electives for your undergraduate study. Another pathway that you might like to do, and this is unfortunately only offered for our domestic students, so our international students are unable to do this one, but this is where you can choose both the majors that we offer. And I will note here that if you do choose to do this, this is great. But just to bear in mind that our 2 majors are going to be offered across 2 different campuses. And so if you're going to undertake both these majors, there are travel between 2 campuses involved for that option. Whereas the first option, you can just stay at one campus. Then the third option you might like to undergo is to still do the 12 core units, the major that you've chosen, and then instead of doing a minor sequence, you elect to do 6 elective units or subjects of your choice and not do one of those minors. So what does the core structure look like? So this table is a bit busy, but what I wanted to point out here is the 3 years of the undergraduate course. So we've got year 1, year 2 and year 3. Deakin works in trimester systems. You might have heard the word semester. So we work in trimester because we have a 3rd trimester over the summer period, which is a great opportunity for marine science students to undertake some intensive units if they're studying part-time and need to have time to be able to do some of those units in summer. But also we have one of our core units, marine wildlife, that is run over an intensive period in around sort of the November-ish time of the year. Because of that, the nice weather, it's an ideal time to undertake that unit. So all the green shaded cells are the core units. So those 12 cores that you need to undertake, no matter what, no matter which campus you're at. So those are some of the units that you'll undertake. And then whatever pathway, major pathway you choose, this is sort of where the pink cells are where those will be scaffolded across your year level. And then whether you choose another major, a minor, elective package, you can see the orange cells as to where that would sort of fit into the 24 overall credit point structure. This darker pink professional practice down here is the unit that you'll undergo your placement with an organisation in your 3rd year. So now we're going to break out into our 2 majors to give you a bit of an overview of what those look like. So I'll talk to the first major, and then Dr. Trish Corbett's then going to talk about the second major and then talk you through some of the graduate outcomes or career pathways that some of our students have undergone through this degree, and then also chat to some of our students about their marine science course as well. So the two major pathways we have, major one is the Oceans, Fisheries and Aquaculture Sciences, and then major two is the Sustainable Marine Management. Under each of these majors here, you can see a list of units or subjects that would be packaged in under that major. So this is where those 6 units would be. And so you would sort of think about which one suits you best as to where you see yourself heading into the career-wise and career pathway as to which one you might choose. As I said, you can also choose both of them and travel between campuses to undertake the double major there. If you're also interested in the minor options, we have a minor 1 Indigenous Studies and then minor 2 Global Engagement, and we're more than happy to show you what those units will look like if anyone's interested in looking at those a bit more closely. So in terms of choosing what to do and how to go about it, we're happy to answer some of those questions in the live Q&A, but also myself and Trish are always available leading up to your decision making if you wanted to contact us and chat through some of these options in more detail to suit your personal career aspirations. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about the major 1 and then I'm going to pass it over to Trish to talk about the major 2. And that's just because of where Trish and I are located at Deakin University. So I'm based at the Queenscliff Marine Science Centre, close to our Geelong Warm Ponds campus, and Trish is located down at our Warrnambool campus. And so the 2 majors are offered across those 2 locations. So this major 1, Oceans, Fisheries and Aquaculture Sciences, will be offered at our Geelong Warrnambool Ponds campus, as well as practical and fieldwork components will be run out of our Queenscliff Marine Science Centre. And so here, this really does have a Oceans, Fisheries, Aquaculture field to it, this major, and out at the Queenscliff Marine Science Centre is where our marine team are located, and we have we're co-located with the Victorian Fisheries Authority out there, and it's an ideal place that, as you can see in the bottom left-hand screen, we're right on Swan Bay, and so we are able to obtain seawater fresh from Port Phillip Bay. That enables us to have flow-through aquaria systems to be able to run our research and teaching programs at this location. And as well as the Warrnambool campus, Queenscliff and Warm Ponds are really close to a rich diversity of marine coastal ecosystems at our doorstep. I mentioned earlier about the Great Southern Reef. Both Warrnambool and Geelong campuses have an array of marine locations and environments to explore and develop those skills that you need to be able to graduate as a marine scientist. Okay, so I'm now going to pass over to Trish to talk more about major 2.
Thanks, Prue. At the Warrnambool campus, we literally have the Hopkins River area where the river meets the sea right on our doorsteps. In the top right-hand corner, you can see a photo of some of our students on campus collecting invertebrate and water samples. There are also a number of different ecosystems close by, including salt marshes, sandy beaches, rocky shores, and shallow subtidal ecosystems where students get out into the field and explore the biodiversity. Just 15 minutes from campus is Middle Island, pictured in the bottom left photo. This is home to the world first penguin conservation program, which uses Maremma guardian dogs to protect a locally threatened colony of little penguins from fox attack. Additionally, organisations such as the Glenelg Hopkins Catchment Management Authority have their offices on campus, which gives students a fantastic opportunity to network with experts in the field. This together makes Warrnambool the ideal place to study sustainable marine management. So what are the entry requirements to get into the Bachelor of Marine Science? The entry requirements for school leavers for the Geelong Warm Ponds campus is an ATAR of 66.70, with a study score of at least 25 in English, EAL, or 20 in English other than EAL. So if you're not a school leaver, there's a number of prerequisites that are listed here on the slide. So the course is going to be offered in Warrnambool for the first time in 2023. So as a result, we don't have an ATAR requirement yet, and we'll have that after the first intake of students. However, it's likely to be similar to Geelong. Deakin is committed to ensuring Deakin graduates are work ready. So we're achieving this by embedding career education and employability skills at every year of your course. And this includes a third year unit that allows you to study to undertake at least 80 hours of work placement in the industry. Deakin also has talent services that are available not just to our students, but also to you as a graduate. So this can happen in a number of ways. So we have on demand, where we have universal access for Deakin students and graduates. There's also guided programs, so there might be face-to-face workshops, career coaching, and other professional development programs which are open to all students and graduates, and they may be either on campus or on the cloud. And then we also embed this within the curriculum. So we contextualise, embed and scaffold this into core learning. So furthermore, with the Deakin Marine course, we are able to network with an array of professionals from the marine sector. Here are just some examples of organisations that the staff and students within the Deakin Marine team have ongoing teaching and research partnerships with. So there's also the opportunities to volunteer with local marine organisations such as Parks Victoria during your course and assist with research projects being conducted at the university if research is something that might be of interest to you in your career. Research opportunities are embedded into your course, and in third year, there's the opportunity to partake in a research project as an elective unit. There's opportunity to complete an honours unit or honours year after you've completed your undergraduate course. So now that we've shown you how we're going to make you job ready, let's talk about some job examples of previous marine graduates that they've secured after their degree. So these can be in areas like research, commercial, government, tourism, and a number of other opportunities. So here we've got some of our recent marine graduates in different roles. So one's a fishery officer, we have a senior snorkel supervisor, someone who's become a fisheries scientist, and an aquaculture technician. So these are just some of the roles that our students are getting straight out of their degree. Now, as you progress in your career, you might start to do some other types of roles. So here are some graduates who are in their mid-career. So we've got one who's doing reef restoration as a coordinator, another marine coordinator, project officer, aquaculture scientist, and there's a number of different career paths that you can get into. Meet the entry requirements shown earlier, or a non-school leaver interested in studying the marine degree, we have alternate pathways. So be sure to explore these options via the Deakin website or chat online with Deakin staff member today. In this course, we use mixed model delivery using a combination of online and face-to-face learning. Deakin has a fantastic tech support team that are available to you. There's also the opportunity to apply for scholarships and financial support by heading to deakin.edu.au/study/fees-and-scholarships. If you're joining us today as an international student and would like to learn more about applying to Deakin, fees, scholarships and studying at Deakin, you may wish to attend one of the information sessions run by our international study experts. You can find these sessions on the schedule page. You can also speak to our international team on web chat, which you can find by clicking on the icons in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today. It's really great to see so many of you interested in marine. If you'd like to learn more, please explore our website or our resources on this page or across the virtual Open Day website. We also encourage you to stick around for the live Q&A, which is about to kick off. You can send through your questions for this session by entering them into the panel on the right-hand side of your screen. If you need to head to another session, you can speak to our experts on web chat at any time throughout the day. You can do this by clicking on the speech bubble at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. We hope that you've found this session valuable and that you've enjoyed your Open Day experience. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Hello and welcome to the Marine at Deakin live Q&A session. I'm Professor John Donald, and today I'm joined by our presenters, Prue, Trish, Cal and Aisha, who I'll now ask to introduce themselves. Firstly, Aisha.
Hello, everyone. I am an undergraduate of Bachelor of Marine Science, and I am just at the end of my second year.
Thank you. Cal?
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name's Cal, and I'm a recent graduate. I finished about a year ago, and I've just also finished my honours year. So thank you.
Trish?
Welcome everyone. I'm Trish and I'm the Deputy Course Director of the Bachelor of Marine Science.
And Prue?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Prue. I'm the course director of the Bachelor of Marine Science. Really happy to see you all here, and please make sure you fill this session with all the questions that you might have about this course.
Thank you. If you would like to ask a question, please type your question into the Q&A section in the question panel on this page. We will do our best to respond to all of your questions during this session. If you have any unanswered questions at the end of the session, our team of experts will be available on web chat all day to assist with any questions, including any specific international student-related admissions or fees queries. At the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you will notice a yellow Chat Now icon. Please click on this after the session to be connected with our team. To kick us off, we have our first question from Jill, and Jill is very curious to know what are the key differences between the Warm Ponds and Warrnambool campuses. So what we might get Trish to do is just talk about Warrnambool, and then we'll pass it to Prue to talk about Warm Ponds.
Yeah, that's a great question. So at Warrnambool, we have a nice small campus and we're set on a really important coastal ecosystem called the Hopkins River Estuary. So this is where the river meets the sea. So at Warrnambool, well, actually at both campuses, you'll be doing core units. So there's 12 core units that you'll do, whether you do the major at Warrnambool or at Queenscliff. And so at Warrnambool, if you choose to do the Sustainable Marine Management major, you'll be looking at things like Indigenous natural resource management. You'll be doing a unit called Marine Futures, where you'll look at the 7 key marine challenges that have been identified by marine scientists around the country. And you'll look at sustainable management of those challenges. You'll also look at the management all the way from our catchments to coasts and the marine environment. Thanks, Prue.
Yeah, good question, Jill. And I guess before I go into what Warm Ponds is, just to put it in context, both our campuses are fabulously located in an ideal situation to undertake your Bachelor of Marine Science course, because at our doorstep at both campuses, you have the Great Southern Reef, which is an iconic stretch of coastline, about 8,000 kilometres, that's interconnected through a temperate reef system, and it's considered to be a biodiversity hotspot and has endemic species, around about 1,000 species that are endemic to just the Great Southern Reef. So you can't get better location than Warrnambool and the Warm Ponds campus to undertake your marine science course. But at the Warm Ponds campus, we also have a teaching and research facility about 30-40 minute drive from that campus, which is called the Deakin University Queenscliff Marine Science Centre. This particular location is where the practicals and the field trips are located for that component of the course. So if you are going to undertake the other major of this marine science degree, which is Oceans, Fisheries and Aquaculture Sciences, that's the major that's located at the Geelong Warm Ponds campus. And so a lot of the practical components will be based out of our Queenscliff Marine Science facility. And so here we have field trips at your doorstep, so sandy beaches, rocky platforms, just like Warrnambool, and also estuarine systems as well. So both campuses are well placed. There are slight differences, I guess, in terms of geographic location, but in terms of delivery of the course, they're both in idyllic places to undertake a marine degree.
Thanks, Prue. The next question is from Mel, who's asking, what is the ratio of field work to lab work in our course? I might get the 2 academics to comment, and then we'll go to Aisha and Cal to talk about their experience about that particular aspect of lab and field work. Start with Prue.
Yeah, that's a good question. And so what we do pride ourselves on with this course is that it's marine environment or marine science. And so we take the notion that all our students that want to undertake this degree want to do so because they have some sort of connection to the ocean, so therefore they want to be near the ocean. So we make sure that the degree is very hands-on and immersive, and so there are field trips and also practical components scattered throughout the degree. The marine specific units have at least a practical or field trip embedded into it, whether there's also more than just one practical component. And in terms of putting it down to a ratio, it's really hard to tell what that would be. I've actually haven't mapped that out, but I guess that when Cal and Aisha speak to their experiences, they might better give you a bit of an indication of how hands-on some of those units are and what they're getting out of it. But we do recognise that this is a very hands-on immersive learning course.
Thanks, Prue. Trish, have you got anything else to add to that?
No, I think Prue explained that very well from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay, we'll pass to our students. We'll start with Aisha about what her experience has been so far, and then to Cal.
So I like really hands-on fieldwork stuff, and this course is actually pretty good. Like, we get to go out and wear waders, which are basically like big overalls, or like the fly fishers wear those, and you get to go out in the water and hang out in sea meadows and take samples and take water samples and observe what's going on down there. And we get to go snorkeling, which I really loved. Get to see lots of rays down at a local shipwreck, and get to go around lots of intertidal zones as well, taking samples, doing quadrats and stuff like that. So it is actually really immersive. It is great.
I would say, to add on to that, I mean, Aisha definitely covered off all the kind of fieldwork components really well. I guess the practical components that I was really interested in are kind of your working with marine invertebrates, working with marine plants, working with marine fishes, and also working with marine microbes. And then as you sort of get to your later stages of your degree, you start to sort of work on more technical stuff about the microbiology of fish, and also learning about environmental modeling, which is super important for the future of marine biology. Just going back to Prue's thing about this kind of ratio, from memory, I feel like you're in the lab or in the field at least kind of once a week, which is pretty awesome, sometimes more, but yeah, it's definitely very, very heavy practical and field-based course, which is great.
Thanks, Cal. Our next question is about the contact hours for each course and how you can actually balance your commitments while studying. And I think it's best to ask the students to respond to that question. And we might start with you, Cal.
Yeah, sure. That is a great question. And I think it really depends on what you want to get out of the course. So, I mean, you can definitely kind of, in lack of a better word, scrape through by just watching the lectures and the seminars and just kind of doing the bare minimum. In terms of actual contact hours that are prescribed, I think maybe Prue or Trish are better to answer that in terms of specifics. But I think what I personally really loved was the extra readings and things that the lecturers set, which sort of, you could choose your own adventure and do some extra work on things that you're really interested in. These kind of extra readings aren't necessarily always assessed. But yeah, I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in a certain topic, to kind of go on with these.
Aisha?
I think like you can definitely work and study at the same time, like, but it's completely person specific. Like it becomes a bit of a learning process about your abilities to manage your own time and make the time and prioritize as well. So it can be quite person specific, but around, I think it's about 15 hours per week per subject, I think. I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
John, I might jump in there just to add to what Aisha and Cal have just said. We are very aware that a lot of the students that come to study with us do want to have that work-study-life balance. And so in recognising that, and one of the positive aspects that came out of remote learning during the last couple of years of lockdown was that we have came out of that through a blended learning experience. And what I mean by that is that we do have components of the course that is being delivered online, and we have components of the course where the hands-on immersive learning is achieved. And I think by having that blended approach, we are really catering to those that would like to continue to have a part-time job and have that work-life balance all thrown into that package. And I think Aisha really sums that up nicely, that it does come down to the individual as to how much work you might be doing versus the study. So there are part-time options. So full-time study is not quite working for you because of the work commitments you might have, then you might drop back to part-time, for example. But having the online component does make that flexible learning of studying anytime, anywhere, and then having come into campus for those hands-on practical components. So you get that skill and that face-to-face contact with your teaching staff, but also your fellow students too.
And also the lectures are usually online and they're recorded as well. So if you can't make a lecture or attend a class, generally, unless it's a prac, generally it's recorded, so you can rewatch it later on as well, or you can watch it when you do have the time if it clashes with work or something else going on, which is really, really handy.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is, are there any minors that could be taken during this course? And also what electives can be done during the course as well? I might get Prue to answer that one.
Yeah, good question. So we do have a few options. So if you weren't able to watch the information session we've just had beforehand, but it will be available after this Q&A further down the track. So please go and watch it, as it gives you more detail as to how those options are offered and what might work best for you. So the Bachelor of Marine Science, in a nutshell, it does have 2 majors, and those majors will be delivered at 2 different campuses. So depending on which major is more interest to you and your career interests, you'll choose one major. Potentially you could choose both, so you could be traveling between the 2 campuses if you want to achieve a double major. But then if you choose one major, you've also got the option to undertake a minor package. And a minor in this course is 4 units or 4 subjects bundled together. And I might just go back to the majors. They've got 6 units per major. So the minor is a slightly less units, so it's 4. And the 2 minors that we're offering as part of the Marine Science course is Indigenous Studies as one, and the other minor is Global Engagement. And so depending again what career interest you might have, you might be going into sort of the marine management type field. So the Indigenous Studies will be a fantastic addition to that major to undertake. And if you're seeing yourself traveling for your career, or you would like to travel and expand your global experiences, then the Global Engagement minor would be an excellent choice to add into your major package.
Thanks, Prue. Our next question is, do you need to have any previous knowledge in areas like biology or chemistry in order to gain entry into the course? And I'll ask Trish to answer that one.
That's a really good question. So the answer is no. So we don't have prerequisites for this course. So all of the first year units are designed so that you can gain all of that base knowledge. So it doesn't matter if you haven't done any of those particular subjects in year 12. By the end of first year, everyone will be at the same level with that.
Thank you. My next question is about what are the postgraduate study opportunities when you study marine science? And firstly, we might ask Cal to talk about what he did. He's already mentioned his honours, but what he did for his honours and what he might do afterwards. And then we'll ask others to comment on what the opportunities are.
Sure. Yeah, that's also a very good question. I guess with my situation, I decided to do an honours research year, which is basically an extra year added on to your degree where you undertake a research project along with a number of extra units that go over professional writing and statistical analysis and things like that. This sort of research year is kind of to give you a bit of a taster of what it's going to be like to do a PhD, I guess, and what research is like. So my project specifically, I was working with one of the lecturers at Deakin, and also a few researchers in New Zealand, looking at predicting the spread of invasive marine pests by recreational boats in New Zealand. So it was a really awesome project, and I gained some pretty cool coding and modeling skills through that, which was great. And flowing on from that, I actually managed to gain some employment with my supervisor, which was awesome. And so I've actually just come back from a trip over to New Zealand where we were working with our collaborative researchers over there and end users, trying to sort of continue on my research from my honours. So yeah, I guess that's my kind of point of view from it. And I guess Prue or Trish might be able to touch on PhD opportunities and things like that.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. I think you've been very modest there. I've heard on the grapevine that you impressed all your research collaborators over in New Zealand lately. So well done for that. So as Cal mentioned, the undergraduate course at the Bachelor of Marine Science is 3 years, and then you can still complete an honours year, which is still considered to be under the undergraduate banner. And that honours year is about 9 to 10 months, depending on what project you might have. And then, so that is really a great snapshot of whether, you want to go down that research sort of field and progress into what's known as a Doctor of Philosophy. And that's the PhD that Cal was talking about earlier. And so that's another 3 years to 3.5 year research project. So you might sort of take on a snippet in your honours, which leads you with more research questions that leads into a PhD, or do a completely different topic in the marine field. It's really up to you. And that PhD allows you to not only conduct research under research supervision, but also gain employability skills that you see yourself or wanting to gain when you head out into the workforce following that PhD. So there's lots of different options. A lot of those PhD opportunities might be targeted to meet an industry need or a research collaborator need, as Cal just mentioned, or it could be something that an idea you have specifically had, or a question you've been wanting to know about that you take to a supervisor, that you can sort of chat about it and mold it into a 3-year project for your PhD.
Thanks. We might move on to, I think Prue's covered that very comprehensively. So the next question is about what type of careers can be achieved by completing these bachelor degrees. So I think Cal's already told you that he's well on the way to in his career, but we might get Trish to talk about the types of outcomes from a career point of view.
Yeah, so Prue and Cal have sort of already talked about that research could be a pathway that you take. So you might be really interested in research and end up working in industry or in universities and those sorts of things. There's so many different potential pathways for you as marine scientists. So you can work in tourism or ecotourism. You could work in different government agencies, so things like working at CSIRO or Parks Victoria or the Australian Institute of Marine Science. We've got ex-students who are working in aquaria that are doing, research on different coral reefs around Australia and the country. Yeah, there's like people are working in industry, so in the aquaculture industry and other sectors. Yeah, there's lots of different opportunities to you. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Prue, as well.
Yeah, I think what the good thing about being a science degree is that means that you'll become a STEM graduate, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And that skill set, which is your problem solving, your critical thinking skills, are highly sought after in any field. So depending on where you might go, we have a strong quantitative skill set that we focus on in the degree, and that skill set is very sought after in the industry at the moment. So data analysis, data scientists. So even what we'd like to sort of consider the marine science degree is that as a graduate, it's a stepping stone to what might be your dream job. So you sort of start off in marine officer type role, which then might build up into a marine manager type role, and building on those skills as you progress through the career. And so it's really flexible. The marine industry is very, very broad, and it's just considerably growing now as we are trying to utilize our ocean more. But as a scientist or someone that's passionate about the ocean and wanting to conserve the ocean, we need to do that in a sustainable way. And so there are lots of opportunities now that can take you anywhere. So that's one of the things that we do in the course, and particularly in the first year, is have that broad overview of where the marine industry fields are, expose you to a lot of guest speakers across the 3 years of the course, but also what we are now doing is implementing career education in not only first, second and third year, so that you can be looking at what roles are out there that are being advertised. You can be tailoring your CV, your resume to those particular roles and getting feedback from your teaching staff as to whether you'd be competitive for that. We also really encourage our students to seek volunteer experiences, particularly in first and second year. And then in third year, we have a unit in our course that enables you to undertake experience in whatever organisation you might like to do, and that is a placement, so an 80-hour placement. And so Cal, I think by memory, conducted that placement at the Australian Institute of Marine Science up in Townsville, and that has certainly opened the door for Cal into other opportunities from that particular placement. I'm not sure whether Aisha has chosen somewhere yet, and Aisha might want to jump in here to say what she might be hoping where to undertake the placement.
I haven't decided on my placement yet, because I'm going to do mine next year. I've kind of put it off so it can help kind of quickly segue me into a workplace after. But I'm interested in marine management in parks. So I'm interested in working for Parks Victoria. So whether that becomes a stepping stone or a career for a long time, I'm not sure. But it's also kind of beautiful doing lots of different subjects and covering lots of areas in the degree, because you become exposed to so many different things. Like I'm now super interested in learning oceanography and doing bathymetry work and stuff like that. But yeah, I haven't decided on a placement yet, but it's probably definitely going to be Parks Victoria if I can.
And I do know that Parks Victoria have specific Deakin placements set aside for our students each year. So that's definitely achievable, Aisha.
All sounds good, Aisha. We'll move on to the next question, which is that do these courses apply to wetlands and rivers or just oceans and coastal? And I might get Trish to answer that.
Yeah, so particularly in a unit that we do at Warrnambool called Catchments to Coast, we really incorporate wetlands, rivers, the whole catchment and how that integrates with the coast as well. So it is incorporated throughout the degree because everything is interconnected. So it's really important to learn about the whole system.
Thank you. Our next question is scuba diving an option that can be done during the course? And I might get Cal to talk about his scuba experience from what I recall. And then the course director Prue can tell you a little bit about what the options are there.
Yeah, thanks, John. I think definitely scuba diving is not a requirement of the course. Prue or Trish can correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but it's definitely an option that you can do as part of a global placement. So as part of the marine degree at Deakin, there's lots of overseas opportunities that you can take part in. So in my first year at Deakin, I was lucky enough to go on an overseas placement to Belize in the Caribbean, which is sort of just completely eye-opening for me and just confirmed my want to be a marine biologist. And part of that environmental placement was that we learned how to scuba dive. So we were living on this small island for about a month and scuba diving kind of 3 times a day, every day. And so it's just an absolute dream. And now I've kind of continued that skill onwards, and I'm starting a scuba diving master's next week up in Byron. So yeah, diving is definitely something that I'm definitely keen on, but if you're not into that kind of thing, you definitely don't have to do it. Yeah.
I might just get Prue to comment on the actual complexity and constraints of having scuba diving within a course.
Yeah, thanks, John, and thanks, Cal. So Cal's absolutely right. It's not don't have to be scuba certified to come into the marine science course. It might be that it's of interest to you, and certainly our undergrad students go off and dive or snorkel when they're not studying or having to do work. So that's not something that is embedded into our course per se. And the reason being is that we have I guess the risks associated and the processes that would be involved to implement scuba diving into the course is quite difficult. Having said that, Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. So it could be that if you have a certification that's recognised by Deakin for honours or PhD and you need to scuba dive for those research purposes, then our students in those postgraduate courses do undertake their scuba diving. But then it's not, if you're sort of disappointed at the thought of no scuba diving, don't be disappointed, because what we do have, which I think sometimes is better than scuba diving, is snorkeling in the course. And so first year, and in fact, in your first week of the course, we get you underwater snorkeling. And we've taken students that have either never swam before or have never swam in the ocean before. And because as I mentioned, the Great Southern Reefs, the coastline that both Warrnambool and the Warren Ponds campuses are close by, are really safe snorkeling opportunities. And we've been able to take all our students snorkeling in that first week. We actually have our own snorkeling equipment across the two campuses, so the accessibility is really, really good. And all we ask our students to do is to bring their own full length wetsuit. And those students that even struggle to do that, we've got a few backup wetsuits that some of our staff have that bring along for those students. So snorkeling is certainly there. So we'll get you in the water, and then often from that, what we find is students then take that to the next level, where they create their own snorkeling group and go snorkeling through over the weekend or whatever it might be. And then some students that are even more keen might undertake their scuba certification as a separate certification during their undergraduate course, but it's not certainly a requirement as part of your degree.
Thanks, Prue. We are coming towards the end of our live Q&A sessions, so we only have time for one or two more questions. If anybody has a question that they want to ask the presenters. Our next question is about the actual facilities that Deakin has for undertaking marine science studies. So what I might do is ask Trish to talk about the labs and particularly local environs at Warrnambool, and Prue to talk about Warren Ponds and Queenscliff.
Yeah, so at Warrnambool, we have a number of labs that are kitted out with different types of microscopes so that we can bring beasties back into the lab and have a look at them. We have lots of different types of water quality monitoring instruments. So that's something that's really important in your degree, that you'll learn how to assess the health of an ecosystem. So in understanding the water quality and being able to look at different parameters, then you'll be able to determine, if that's in a safe level or not. So we have fantastic labs, and also we have all kinds of different ecosystems that are really close to the Warrnambool campus. So things like sandy beaches and rocky shores and seagrass meadows and kelp forests and all of those sorts of things.
And Prue?
Thanks, Trish. And at the Warren Ponds campus, we've got state-of-the-art facilities there for your practical components, particularly for your first year chemistry and biology units. But then also microbes, so tiny little microbes are your thing, or maybe genetics might also be of interest to you. We have also facilities at the Warren Ponds campus for that particular unit in your second year. But then, as I mentioned earlier, we have our Queenscliff Marine Science Centre, which is about a 40-minute drive from the Warren Ponds campus. And at this centre, we have our teaching lab, but we also have access to seawater that gets pumped directly into that centre. And that enables us to have really cool, that's just being built, state-of-the-art aquarium systems where we'll be able to run various programs with our practical component of the course there. And as Trish mentioned, we also have the same marine environments because we're right along the Great Ocean, the Great Southern Reef, and we're access to Port Phillip Bay, of course. So a lot of our sites that we do visit are inside the bay. So it makes a great spot to be able to just go out snorkeling, even when it's rough seas in the Southern Ocean.
Thanks, Prue. The last question we're going to ask today is for our two students, Cal and Aisha, and that is, what has been your favourite part of studying your course so far? And we'll start with Aisha.
My favourite part of this course so far has been the field work, definitely. Like, I'm very hands-on and I enjoy being out in the field and doing things physically. So going out to the intertidal rocky shores, going out snorkeling, going out in the waders. I don't know why I like the waders I do. They just like suck your legs in. You're like paddling around everywhere in the water. It's great. And really enjoying the lab work as well. You get exposed to a lot of different things. Like at the moment, I'm doing marine microbiology and we're learning how to extract DNA from fish, which I never thought I'd do in an undergraduate degree. And it's great. It's mind-blowing a little bit. It's really cool.
And Cal?
Yeah, I mean, I guess as Aisha touched on, the most obvious ones are that the practical and fieldwork components. And from my perspective, also my overseas placement, which was definitely a highlight. I think another aspect of the degree I really enjoyed was the small class sizes. So this sort of meant that you're able to sort of form these really meaningful relationships with other students, but also maybe more importantly, your lecturers. So these lecturers are the ones that are going to get you the jobs in the future. And also, it's really important if you are looking to do postgraduate studies, if you form these connections with your lecturers early and ask lots of questions and do volunteering for them and things like that, you're going to find it a lot easier to gain some of these projects. So yeah, that's one aspect I really enjoyed about it.
Thanks, Cal.
I feel like I
Unfortunately,
should,
yep,
sorry, I feel like I
Aisha.
should quickly add on to that DNA sequencing. So you're taking the samples, but you also get to genomically sequence the data. So you get to see
Oh,
the actual they're like an electropherogram of the DNA, and then you get to trim it, and then you get to like blast it in a database and then match it to see what bacteria is present and stuff like that. So that was like the extension of that, which I forgot to mention.
sounds like you really
very cool.
enjoyed that.
It was great.
Okay, unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. Thank you for all of you for joining us. It's really great to see so many people interested in Marina Deakin and to receive so many questions. If we have not responded to your question, again, please join our all-day web chat at the bottom right of your screen where expert staff are ready to answer your questions. If you'd like to learn more, you'll also find loads of really useful resources on our Deakin Open Day website that we encourage you to explore. Thanks for your time, and we hope to see you at Deakin soon.